We are getting exclusive audio from 2024 of Trump then as a candidate discussing details of a private conversation that he once had with President Putin. The audio obtained by the authors of a new book that is just out today. And for context, the president has long said that Putin would never have invaded Ukraine on his watch because of something he told him once privately. Trump had never revealed what that was.
I had a very strong conversation with President Putin, and he understood, and I won't go into the great details of the conversation because nobody has to know that, but I will tell you, it never, ever would have happened.
I don't want to say it, but did they fear me? I suspect they did.
Well, tonight we're learning those details as the audio reveals that Trump says that he threatened not just President Putin, but also China's President Xi Jinping. And this is what he told donors about what exactly that conversation looked like during a private fundraiser last year.
To Putin, I said, if you go in to Ukraine, we're going to bomb the shit out of Moscow. I'm telling you, I have no choice. The public wants it. The public. So he goes like, I don't believe you. He said, no way. And I said, way. And then he goes like, I don't believe you, but the truth is he believed me 10%. And I told you this, he believed me 10%. Then I'm with President Xi of China, but I said the same thing to them. I said, you know, if you go into Taiwan, I'm going to bomb the shit out of Beijing. He thought I was crazy. He said, Beijing, you're going to bomb Beijing. I said, I have no choice. I got to bomb them. We're going to bomb Beijing. And he didn't believe me either, except 10%. And 10% is all you need. In fact, 5% would have been okay too. And we never had a problem. We would have never had a problem.
The Trump campaign declined to comment on the content of what you just heard there, but the three deeply sourced reporters who acquired that exclusive audio are joining me now tonight. Josh Dawsey of the Wall Street Journal, Isaac Arnsdorf of the Washington Post, of course also Tyler Pager of the Times as well, are all three the authors on the book that is out today. 2024, how Trump retook the White House and the Democrats lost America. And Josh Dawsey, I mean, you obviously have covered Trump along with me for years now. Given the audio of what you heard the president saying about Putin then, I wonder what you made of how fed up he seemed with him today.
Well, I think what he was trying to tell the donors there, Caitlin, was that he could have deterred this. He could have stopped this. You heard him say on the campaign trail, if you reelect me, I can stop this immediately. And it's clear Vladimir Putin has not been listening to what Trump wants, right? I mean, Trump says, I've been doing all these calls, they're frustrating. Today he unleashed a profanity as he was sort of describing what he thought of Vladimir Putin and what he was doing. But what you see in that tape is Trump behind closed doors to his richest donors in New York, telling them, you know, I had control over these guys, basically espousing the madman theory, right? They thought I was just crazy enough that maybe I would have done something if they crossed me. And I used that to basically get them to do what I wanted them to do. And I think what the frustration you're seeing now from President Trump, you know, we've reported he says Vladimir Putin has changed. He makes all of these comments in private about how he used to think he had a better relationship with Vladimir Putin. And I think Putin's just not listening to him. Putin's not listening to what Trump wants him to do.
Yeah, I mean, and Isaac, when Trump was running, and obviously that is a deep part of the book, is what the Trump campaign looked like internally, as well as the Biden-Harris campaign. But when he was running, the argument that he made to voters was, I can fix this. I can handle this. You know, Putin is scared of me and intimidated by me, as Josh mentioned there. And now here we are, that he's been in office for several months and is realizing that Putin isn't showing a lot of interest in getting the deal that Trump wants here.
Well, more often than Putin being scared of him, it was, you know, Putin was someone he had a good relationship with. And Trump has often talked about Putin as someone who could make a deal with, you know, that they could find some common ground. And a lot of Russia specialists in the U.S. national security establishment looked at that and said, you know, Putin is not interested in improving relations with the West. He wants nothing to do with the West. It just doesn't work that way. You can just give him what he wants and he's going to go home. That's not a way to resolve this war. And Trump is finding that out the hard way now that he's 6 months into past due on his promise for that war to be over. And he's clearly frustrated.
Josh, what did it say to you when Trump was asked, when I asked him, you know, who directed the pause of this shipment of munitions? Clearly something he did not want, given he has just said he's going to send more to Ukraine. And he just essentially, you know, turned it into an answer that he did not fully elaborate on and didn't turn to Hegseth, who was sitting right next to him.
Right. I mean, you and I have seen him do that many times over the years, Caitlin. When he wants to answer a question, he can often be long and verbose and can tell you exactly what he wants. And when he doesn't want to answer a question, he clearly didn't want to answer that question. He didn't, right? And I've always been very interested, as a reporter, when the president doesn't answer a question like that, what the answer might be. Obviously, we don't know tonight.
And your other co-author, Tyler, is here with us now. And Tyler Pager, obviously, in terms of watching that cabinet meeting play out today, I think the president's reaction to this sanctions bill that a lot of Republican senators have been ready to vote on and pass for weeks now, if not months, it was notable that he sounded more open today to that than we have heard him. The question remains if he signs it and if it actually goes into effect, because there's a waiver built in, as Senator Lindsey Graham has said, for the president. But I wonder what it says to you if he's losing patience and ready to try a different strategy here.
Yeah, it's a remarkable evolution from the president. We've seen his tone and mood shift over the course of several months as he's been frustrated by his inability to solve this conflict. The president came into office promising to be a president that achieved peace, and he has been frustrated that he's not been able to do that. I think he thought that he could get more done with Vladimir Putin than other presidents were able to do, and that's clearly not the case. I think from the audio you played earlier in the clip, he was bragging about his ability to negotiate or sort of put pressure on Putin, and it's much easier to do that from a campaign perspective than a governing perspective, and he's seeing that play out in real time, and that's causing this shift.
Yeah, it stood out in a real way. And I want to talk more about the book because there are so many buzzy pieces of it, and just it really does get behind the scenes of what was playing out behind closed doors, that not all voters got to see what was happening in the inner workings of these campaigns. But I do have the former Ambassador Rahm Emanuel here with me. And just, given your expertise in this area, how you've seen foreign policy play out, I wonder what stood out to you, given Putin has never indicated he's ready to end this war. I don't think anyone has seen real signs. I mean, he's had conversations with Trump, but it has always seemed like the ball is being pushed down the road here.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's an assessment of power and position right now. I think the president actually is in a much stronger position than the card he's playing, and Putin's in a much weaker position than the card he's playing. Why? You take the bombing in Iran, regardless of our politics, Putin sees that as a strong position, not just a madman position, but strong position. The aftershock is being felt in Beijing and Moscow. You have a situation, Putin lost Syria. He has shown to be feckless on Iran. He's taken 3.5 years of a war in Ukraine, which is a much smaller country, and can't even get 4 provinces to close out. The military is weak. His intelligence failed on Wagner, on Ukraine, and on Syria. His economy, by his own central bank, has said is collapsing. This is a person who's up against the wall. And the president has an opportunity to both apply weapons pressure and sanction pressure. And if he does that, he can actually take the strength that the United States has and apply it to the weaknesses that Putin has. And he hasn't done that now. He's getting to that point. And the reason Putin hasn't done this is because he has bet the house. And if he comes up short, he's got his own domestic political problems.
Donald Trump provided the college audio confession in which he claims to have detailed about Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. Those sheer intimidation is a masterclass in political theater, but also a dangerous example of delusion. Bragging to wealthy donors that they feared me and insinuating he threatened nuclear attacks to stop invasions is not just reckless. It highlights how detached Trump's fantasy of dominance is from today's geopolitical reality. 6 months into his second presidency, Trump finds himself staring down a war he said he could end on day one. Putin isn't listening. Xi isn't trembling, and Ukraine is still burning. The image of Trump as the all-powerful dealmaker is collapsing under the weight of its own contradictions. This leaked audio about reinforces a disturbing pattern. Trump, the candidate, promised instant global peace. Trump, the president, fumbles the playbook. His madman theory act unpredictable to gain leverage might have worked in theory, but in practice, authoritarian leaders like Putin aren't biting. Instead, they have grown more emboldened. Even the Republican-controlled Senate is growing impatient, pushing a sanctions bill. Trump initially resisted. His cabinet appears frank with conflicting signals and missed opportunities. And when asked who ordered the pause is weapons shipments to Ukraine, Trump dodged a telling moment of political cowardice. What's clear is that Trump miscalculated. His belief that strongman posturing could substitute for a coherent strategy has left the US looking queer and reactive. The former ambassador around Emmanuel put it plainly: Putin is vulnerable, and yet Trump is squandering America's advantage. When Trump votes behind closed doors but delivers little on the world stage, one must ask, it is leadership or theater? The audio tape answers that question, and I should terrify anyone expecting results over theoretic.